It's the beginning. It's the beginning of trying to accomplish what you set your mind to when you go into spring training, and everyone's excited about getting off to a good start. And you get through opening day and maybe another opening day on the road that you might have to go through, and then it just kind of falls into line. You get back into your normal routine, but there's excitement because there's hope.
Mark Teixeira just said in the hallway, the thing about this weather is both teams have to deal with it, but there's ice on the field right now. It's going to be freezing. What are some of the challenges, and is there a game, what's the coldest game you can remember playing in?
The coldest game was probably a day in Chicago in the White Sox. It was actually in the month of May. The wind chill was probably about 10 degrees. And the difficulty is feeling the baseball and having a good grip on the baseball. The other things are your hands are cold, and if you hit one off the end and it really stings, or you get jammed, and if it's a foul ball, you got to get back in there. Those are challenges, and just staying warm because your mind drifts a little bit, so probably at times because you're trying to block out the cold. So those are the challenges. Just
looking at the lineup, what do you like about Hicks in that 2-hole?
Well, he provides power and speed. Has had a lot of success off of left-handers in his career. He's a switch hitter as well. And it's a guy that runs really well. So there's different things that he can do.
Who else? Anthony, right here in the front.
Joe, what things do you have in place to deal with the cold for the players and you? And is it how is it in the dugout?
Well, there's heaters in the dugout. The bat rack is heated, so at least for the time being, when you pull your bat out of the rack, it's warm. And that's important because your hands are something that you worry about. The guys in the bullpen will be protected because it's enclosed, but the thing is, guys, in between innings can go downstairs and underneath to warm up if they need to warm up. But it's mostly just dealing with the elements.
Ron, go ahead right here.
You think you would have a shorter pitch count on Tanaka because of the cold?
No, not necessarily. He's probably the warmest guy out there. So if guys would like to see him get through innings quickly, it would be everyone that's standing behind him, I'm sure. But no, not necessarily.
Standing to your right, Joe. Bill.
Joe, after 6 weeks of just playing meaningless games, what's the sense of anticipation to finally get the season going?
Well, I think it's what you look forward to. The games in spring training are to get the guys ready. And, the big meaning is in spring training is that they're healthy and they feel good about where they are physically. But there's not a lot of pregame preparation for those games in a sense of strategy and those sort of things. So I think we all look forward to this time.
Brendan, to your left, Joe.
Did Mitchell see a specialist yesterday?
He had surgery yesterday. He will be out at least 4 months. We're waiting for an exact timetable to when Stevie gets to talk to the doctor, just because sometimes schedules don't match up. It's texting, and we got to find out exactly what that 4 months means. Is it he can begin throwing, or he should be back? So, but it will be at least 4 months before we see him.
Who else? Barry?
How was your feeling on Tanaka as you watched him progress during spring training to get to the point to open up again?
Well, my feeling was it was a guy that was just preparing. It was a veteran that in a sense, was not trying to go too fast. Knew that it's a long season. I need to take my time and make sure before I, really start letting it go that I'm physically in a good spot. And I thought he did that more his last start, which was encouraging. So, we're going to find out exactly where all our pitchers are in the next couple of weeks as they start to pitch. But, they're going to have to deal with some tough elements, too. You talk about playing here, and then we go to Detroit, which is probably not going to be like Florida. And then we go to Toronto, which is a difficult lineup to face. But at least the conditions will be much better.
Bruce, right here in the front, and Eric.
What kind of feeling did you have today, Joe, just driving to the ballpark knowing it was opening day?
I'm excited. I'm excited about this club, the work that they've put in, the additions that we've made. I've said all along that I feel that we're better on paper, but that doesn't really mean much until you go out and play the games. But because of that, I'm excited.
Eric.
Joe, you guys had targeted Mitchell as that Adam Warren role. Who's the most likely guy to fill that with Mitchell now out for indefinitely?
That's something that we're just going to have to go along and see who adapts to that sort of role. Sessa is a guy that you would possibly look at to do that, but we got to make sure, in a sense, that he stays built up as well as Nova. So, how many one-inning stints does he get compared to longer stints? That's something that, in a sense, the games will determine. But he's a guy that could probably do it too.
Ryan, to your right.
Joe, do you have a stack of 80 shirts ready to go for the pregame?
No, I let it's Jason's responsibility to give me the shirt, and I put it on.
You want to talk about that one?
I don't
Joe?
really keep a tidy office when it comes to my clothes, so for me to have 80 laying around, it would be really messy.
No, we're working on it. We've got time.
Ainsley's Angel is an organization that promotes awareness to people with special needs by they join in marathons and running, and the people with special needs are basically put in chariots, and they get to enjoy running through the streets and doing marathons. And there's locations in 25 states. There's organizations in 25 states of Ainsley's Angels, which is, it's half of our country, which is really amazing. So it's to promote awareness to people with special needs, and they were honored in Tampa as our Hope Week recipient, which will be down the road. So we got a chance to see some of the people.
Jack.
Joe, even though Tanaka's only been here 2 years, it seems as if we've seen different versions of him. When he first got here, first 15 starts, absolutely dominant. Then a guy who's had to deal with some injuries, maybe hasn't pitched as many innings as he or you guys would have liked. What version of Tanaka do you expect to see in 2016?
Well, you expect to see a guy that's going to pitch, top of the rotation type of stuff that gives you 30 to 32 starts. But obviously, we have to see how he's doing, as well as all of our pitchers as we go through this season. We saw him pitch a lot of really good games last year, and in a sense, it's what we expect.
All the way in the back, right?
Joe, from your perspective, how is this opening day different for Alex than last year's?
I think there was a lot of uncertainty last year. Maybe what his season was going to be like, maybe how he was going to be received at home and obviously on the road. So I think there's probably much more of a sense of ease because he's been through it and understands, that I could still play this game at a high level, and in a lot of ways I won over a lot of fans last year, so I'm sure he's at ease much more this opening day than last year.
Wally, to your right, Joe.
Joe, back to Tanaka for 1 second. Do you notice that he pitches differently now than he did 2 years ago, maybe in compensation for the injuries?
The only thing, Wally, that I see different is maybe you don't see the top end of the velocity, the 96s, where he really cuts loose. But the average velocity is basically the same. And it remains to be seen if we'll see that this year. I think he topped out in the 94s to 90, maybe 95 last year, but we didn't see the 96.
Right here in the middle. T.
In this season, very first pitch by Hideki Matsui, and then he got the award from the Yankees. So what do you say?
Oh, well, I think he's well deserving of that award, Hideki, as he received the pride of the Yankees. And you talk about, as a teammate or a manager or a fan, what you want out of a player, and he was it. He was tough. He worked extremely hard. He was a leader on the field by the way he played. He was a leader in the clubhouse because of who he was, the way he went about his business. He was well loved in the clubhouse. People wanted to be around him. He had to go through a lot at the end of his career to perform because of the knee surgeries and what he had to go through just to get ready every day. And, by the way, he was MVP of the World Series after going through all that. So I think that he is well-deserving. Everyone's excited to see him, and I look forward to today.
Billy, to your right, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, one of the big differences in Tanaka the last 2 years was the number of home runs he gave up, and you've alluded to, his command wasn't as sharp as at times. Is there any reason for that, or just, what's been missing? I mean, is it mechanical or?
Well, I think any time that your command is a little bit off, there's a good chance it's a little bit, it's mechanics or something off. I don't think people realize what a fine line a pitcher lives, between giving up a ball hit hard and not giving up a ball hit hard. And, the other thing is the people in the league are much more familiar with it now than they were the first year. So it's having to make adjustments as people adjust to you. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it. So is there one thing? No. Is there adjustments that all pitchers have to make along the way? Yes. And it's command. I mean, every hitter that's seen him has a better idea how his fastball plays. Every hitter that's seen him has an idea of how his forkball plays and what it looks like. When he came in, nobody knew. No one knew what 92 looked like. Was it, a harder 92 that was kind of sneaky, or was it just 92? So as a pitcher, I always believe you have that advantage because hitters haven't seen you, and they've made adjustments. Maybe. I mean, you're asking me to go inside a guy's arm and tell you exactly what's happening and why things are happening. I mean, no one really questioned him when he came out and threw that great game against Seattle last year, and he was coming off an injury. So every time a guy has a start that's maybe not up to par, sometimes they just didn't have good stuff that day, and I think sometimes we try to make too much of trying to figure out exactly what's going on. If he's pitching, he's not injured. That's my thought. If he can't pitch, then he is injured.